I went to buy an old hand crank grinder today. I'll just show it to you because I'm excited about it. You can mount it to the table. I'm going to take the grinder off. It you can really get some RPMs going with this thing. RJ's been curious about making power, and I am too. So anyway, I went to buy this. I saw it at the Habitat for Humanity resale store. And I went there. A man asked me if my electric bike really had a V8, like it said on the side on the battery. Later, as I was explaining my ministry, I heard myself saying to him, look, everyone gets horny, but the ones cooking and eating children are running the world because Satan has been loosed. He tended to agree, but it was his first time hearing it. It's not yours. I was reminded of the many different ways that the Lord has shocked me into being like, okay, this is it. And now we're living through that again. We'll explain it. Luther, did you know that I can't get off the exclusion zone and exclusion water? That as soon as it touches something, it makes a new layer of exclusion zone water instantly. And exclusion zone water, for you people who aren't in the know, it's weird, man. Here's this thing. I can, my free speech. Is this like showing my ID? Look, I was talking to Sergio and I told him, I'm going to use YouTube until they take it away. But I hope everybody else finds a time when they can get away from it as soon as possible, because we really don't need it at this point. And unless you're sure God has called you to learn this and share it later in a very important way, don't do it. Here's going to be another example of how what we get into tonight from, you see that 2001, Pepsi plans to shift all its advertising from Interpublic to Omnicom Group. And as this article goes into some of the dates, most people know I ended up working for Gatorade after I found out the John Birch Society was running the Jesuit funded largest Christian homeschool supplier in the world. The Christian Liberty Academy satellite system got there in 1983. This happened. I ended up working for Jack Gohausen Associates. This rumor happened. We were given 5 years saying, look, there's another advertising company, because we were an advertising company that worked for Gatorade right there in Barrington, where the Gatorade Sports Science Institute is. But just being in the place at the time, they gave us 5 years. Jack didn't do it. I ended up, going to do consulting and stuff. And then Benghazi, 9/11, everything happened. This is a picture. I thought Frank Lloyd Wright only did the Baha'i Temple in Milwaukee and Wilmette. I thought he only did Baha'i temples, but this was not. This was another one. And my brother-in-law lived in these apartments over here when he was getting his PhD. And we used to go play that ultimate Frisbee, not the game, but this was a Frisbee that would go 100 yards. and we would play on this field. And I couldn't find it for 20 minutes. I highlighted this part. So it's it's one of the temples of the Baha'is, a recent, or was it, Messiah that changed the world, I think, after the reset. And we have been slow rolled on how popular it was in the rest of the world as people, math geniuses, and the guys who want to be flat, smart earthers. But, the new ABCs is in play for them. Anything but Christ, they go to Baha'i because that's high math. That's a flat earth system. It's good. With the Rodin's base 9 math, it's made a comeback for a while in 2016, 2017. Here's their deal. This was the thing. We have a hard time thinking and taking them serious. They were definitely taken serious in the 1930s. Religion and the New World Order. 8th Horace Holly, Inter-American Possibilities. So here's the thing about what is society? World Advance, a monthly international review. Crusades viewed. This is Baha'i. And Baha'i were the ones being invited to speak at the United Nations, or this was the League of Nations, which they helped found, not Woodrow Wilson. This man says, undeterred, Ios approached Rabbi Coffee, head of the largest synagogue in the Bay Area and the first Jewish person to serve as chaplain of the California State Senate. Coffee shared many of the Baha'is' ideal and became an enthusiastic ally. Why would a Jewish person, do that? White people attacked and set fire to a black neighborhood in Chicago in 1921, attacked and even bombed from the air prosperous black district. I never heard about that, the Tulsa riots. They were bombed from the air, leaving untold black citizens dead and the lives of the survivors ruined. White supremacist, anti-Catholic, anti-Semitic organization, the Ku Klux Klan, experienced a resurgence. Well, it was already one drop rule since the early 1900s. White baseball, they were all racist. But now, anti-Catholic, anti-Semitic. Well, I'm anti-Roman Catholic theology and anti-Zionist organizations. And that covers for what the Klan meant by anti-Catholic, anti-Semitic. But the white power aspect of, because we're white, we deserve to rule, totally heresy, totally apostasy, totally outside the narrow road in every way. So they're the bad guys also. This is, again, the Baha'is talking to, intermurally in their articles I was looking at today. They're talking about, that Woodrow Wilson didn't even really do that. League of Nations, it was us. He concluded his statements that it's more than pathetic that the vision is still waiting for fulfillment. All the efforts of peace organizations and gatherings as the Lake Mohawk Conference culminated in the creation of the League of Nations at the Paris Peace Conference in 1919. However, President Woodrow Wilson, who was out of the United States for 9 months or something, and then came back and went to a coma, and his wife ran the country. Although President Woodrow Wilson was given credit for conceiving the League, the United States Congress refused to ratify the treaty that would make the United States a member. Thus, despite hopeful expectations, the league was born handicapped. And after a few initial achievements proved ineffective, which is why the Baha'is helped later start the one we got now, the United Nations. Interesting, in our area in Antonito, I've driven through Antonito a few times. I don't know if this is old or new or a remake. I buy weed there. I was looking at some of this Sangre de Cristo. This is my area. Saving history, Japanese. They make a big deal about how there were some Japanese here, but when were getting relocated, it pretty much dried up. A few remained here, and they tried to say, sorry, we treated you so bad, but this was their temple in the early 1900s. There were a few here, and they were treated as bad as the Mexicans and everybody else. They told him, this girl, he married a white girl in the kitchen, fell in love with this guy who was working as a cook. They fell in love. They wanted to get married. He had to become a Catholic. So he did. He did everything. But so did Austin and Travis and Houston, the rebels of Texas. When they snuck in and said, to receive these land grants from Mexico, you have to become Catholic. They said, sure. Then later, the United States and the Freemasons said, you know what? Turn on them. So they did. The Fifth Amendment of the United States Constitution is part of the Bill of Rights. It's protected. It was added to the Constitution in 1791 and protects citizens from self-incrimination, among other things. Since anything you can say can and will be used, they'll twist it to where you cannot answer questions. You cannot, at least I never stand on. I'll just tell them I don't need the Fifth Amendment. Yes, you do, every single time. Every single time. Because they're lying. They're lying. I know it, you know it, and the American people know it.
In the mid-1930s, during the depths of the Great Depression, and people these days can't imagine.
Man was 100 years old. If you hang on, you can live a while. He's seen a lot. He's the last man who lives in an original Frank Lloyd Wright house in the utopian towns they were spreading over the United States. Why?
Imagine how deep that depression really was. It was a terrible time. However, some people were still employed. One of the person who was employed was named David Hankin. He was an engineer, he was working in New York City. He started talking with friends and family about forming.
That's that famous church.
About forming a community. There were three principal ideas, one of which was affordable, homes that would cost $5,000. Another was socially connected, cooperative. And of course, the third dimension was Frank Lloyd Wright. The first house was the Freedman House. It's round. He wanted to make a major statement. It was widely admired, kind of a center of activity for Yosemite. The kids
It's small. It's the first version of a tiny home. It's like half the size. You know, they can do the pictures their creative way, but there's no closets, there's no storage. This is a tiny home. A house today for 66 grand. You're going to get a tiny home.
A little children's orchestra, the Usonia Philharmonic. And over those years, we had grown to be like an extended family. And I think that for all of Usonia's architectural achievement, that human achievement is one of the most significant things that has happened here. And this is the third house built. So this is based on the hexagon. With this angular system, you get 120 degrees and you get 60-degree angles. But people don't like being squeezed. But Wright managed to essentially lose the narrow angles in ways that they didn't bother you. For example, over here.
Did he have a swastika on his carpet? I just wondered if anybody else noticed. It kind of got forced on me.
But Wright managed to essentially lose the narrow angles in ways that they didn't bother you. For example, over here, he put it in a plant box to soften that transition.
Wow, a plant box. You can have a couple of plants in your tiny home.
Photograph there is a picture of him standing where the photograph is. So you enter a Frank Lloyd Wright building through a narrow compressed entryway. Each of the spaces, however, relieves the compression and it enhances.
So you're walking into a place that you see the size of a motel room.
The sense of the space you're in. He was very concerned with the total design. That buildings should be of the land, not on the land. They should echo the contours of the land.
It's a utopia.
They should grown out of the earth. And people say to me, you're 100 years old, you don't look that way. You look like you're much younger. Living with beauty does indeed.
Living in a compressed house, who knows? What are those? I'm glad I never studied the deep things of Satan. Who's with me on that? So here's like this one. This one had a big house, So here's these houses. Usonia appears to have been coined in the Duff Law, a Scottish writer, 1865, here and there in two hemispheres, promoting the globe at the start of the eugenics laws of where white power was at its peak. You no longer could let whites play. It was the one drop rule. We of the United States, in justice to Canadians and Mexicans, have no right to use the title Americans when referring to matters pertaining exclusively to ourselves. He went on to acknowledge that some author had proposed Usonia, United States of North America. Sounds like a Phrygian cap wearing baloney thing. Frank Lloyd Wright, is he that? What could we have done without him? Didn't he kill his wife, maybe? Some people accuse him of that. I don't know. I wasn't there. But this guy is a freak. He's like in my opinion, the Kinsey report of architecture was his lifestyle and what he promoted. Usonia, utopia. Let them call themselves America. Here's that Baha'i stuff. They were famous in the United States. They were forming the United Nations and things. They had their own religion headquartered in the United States, but 97% of its adherents were in other countries where they sent missionaries and went to spread the gospel of anything but Christ. There's a new Christ. It's Baha'u'llah. I used to laugh when I heard the name Baha'u'llah. Am I talking about the right guys? This is the guy who helped design their buildings because he had a technique known as polychrome. And that's one of these lost concrete deals. 4th generation Irish stone carver. It's one thing if they want to try to shove down my throat. Oh, they lost the recipe for concrete 400 years ago. Okay, well, what happened the week after when they lost it? Did everybody die? And now we don't, everybody forgot it. You don't forget overnight. No, I lost the recipe. What are we doing for work today? Are we doing that new thing that this guy from the Baha'is discovered? Come on. They're selling baloney. Anyway, polychrome mosaic concrete. It got here from these guys Here's this polychrome historic district. I didn't know that he did it. I'm going backwards. He did it. Oh, polychrome did it. He did it. And they lost it too. There's another Baha'i house of worship in Colombia. Now, that in Milwaukee was not a house of worship by Frank Lloyd Wright. That was we'll get to it. Anglican or Orthodox Anglican something. But this is the longest, oldest one, not the first one, but the oldest surviving. It reflects the nine symbolically that, hooray, Rodin discovered in base nine math. And, is this an old one or not? Is this a remake but here's their, countries that have houses of worship or proposed. It's a growing religion. They've got it all set. Look at this, I kind of recognize some of these symbols. And I think you do too. I know some of you do. So why not start a new religion? There's one in Germany. There's the Lotus Temple. That's not the Lotus Temple. Neither is that or that. This marks the spot of a future Baha'i temple. I'll bet it wasn't there for 1,000 years. Who knows? Come on. What are they going to tell us the truth all of a sudden out of their kindness of their heart? Anyway, this is the replacement religion, probably not the Noahide laws, but they'll probably go into effect somewhere. I don't want to throw that baby out with the bath water. In 1903, a small group of Baha'is, and this is how you spell it, so the apostrophe there is not including the plural. It is spelled B-A-H-A with an ampersand, then an apostrophe I, Baha'i. Downtown Chicago in Wilmette, where the Smashing Pumpkins came from. Despite all my rage, I am still just a rat in a cage. Did I sound like Billy Corrigan? He changes his voice like that. Probably didn't sound like him, but they did it. These guys did it. Anyway, they did it. He did it. I was looking at how they lost concrete today, right? That's part of the narrative today. They're trying to test the concrete. They could test some pretty strong concrete that we can't pour today because we lost the recipes. But they did it. These guys did it. Wilson and the Rockwell brothers. Way to go, Stan. Anybody else got more time to look into it? I'm busy. I got rocks crying out. I got Bible studies going on. I got to search all this stuff. I saw some things in underground Brooklyn or something where they said, look at this thing. It's got a concrete tester that tested up to 35,000 pounds per square inch or 3,500 pounds per square inch, whatever it was. The man was blown away. And they're going like, why would they need something like that?
See this right here. Elon Musk's AI says, and this is Grok 4, I think, says flight logs show Bill Clinton visited Little St. James 12 plus times, Prince Andrew multiple times, Alan Dershowitz, Kevin Spacey, Chris Tucker. Trump flew on the plane 7 times, but not to island costs. I don't know why it's put like that. Wired's 2024.
And this artificial intelligence
leak tracked 200 devices
what it
on the
wants.
island from 2016 to 2019, correlating to elite US EU homes. Direct matches to logs possible. Timing overlaps with known visits, but privacy obscures names. DOJ 2025 files add no new list. Then Elon Musk asked Grok a question. Are there likely to be electronic records in any government or commercial computers recording who traveled on Epstein's plane to the U.S. Virgin Islands? And Grok says, yes, electronic records likely exist Government FAA databases hold 2,000 plus digitized flight logs for Epstein's jets between 98 and 2020, including USVI routes. Per 2021 disclosure, DOJ's 2025 files include passenger manifests like Virginia Gouffre. Data brokers like Near Intelligence tracked 200 plus visitor devices to Little St. James between 2016 and 2019, correlating to elite locations and known logs. Musk replies, would that mean the government right now, as we speak, knows the names and ages of all those who traveled on Epstein's plane? In other words, they have a list of all unaccompanied minors on those flights, along with a list of all adults on those flights? To which Grok responds, yes, the DOJ and FAA hold extensive passenger manifests and flight logs from Epstein's jets, including names from 1991 to 2020 releases. For example, the 2025 Trump admin docs. Ages aren't always listed, but can be verified via investigations and victim statements, identifying unaccompanied minors among 250 plus
30 more
girls.
seconds.
And then Musk says there were 250 plus girls exploited. Grok says, yes, early DOJ files, February 2025, reported 250 plus exploited girls, but the July 2025
Wait, this is July 2025.
memo, after exhaustive review, confirms over 1,000 victims. No client list or
In an ill-advised effort to make this seem somewhat understandable, they're making it appear that the bad people in the world like girls a little bit younger. And that's in itself, kind of weird. But it's not the weirdest thing in the world. I mean, guys are going to like pretty girls. The cover-up is they're hiding that they're gay. They're gay, and they're cooking and eating children and sacrificing them and doing things to Satan. They have studied the deep things of Satan. They're cooking and eating children, and they're trying to tie it into some guys wanted a massage and they're weird. Well, I'm saying that if I wasn't born again, I would get a massage every day. I wouldn't be raping and cooking and eating children, grooming children to be terrorized, to take their adrenochrome and things like that. But I know that King David, Abishai, after Abraham had one wife for life that he obviously loved, he remarried somebody named Zethura and had 10 more children. I believe 7 daughters and 3 sons, something like that. And they were all beautiful. So beautiful women are attracted to men. Weird gay people cook and eat children and help cover up the gay atrocities that are going on in this spirit world. Don't let them change the argument. When they expose a lie, they are not telling the truth.
You want to put it in the micro? Yes, please. Have a seat. Bring him one of our interviews. I got you. Can you follow him? Not a word with him. Don't explain what's going on. Don't ask him a question. Good. Got you.
How disturbing is that? Again, he didn't do anything wrong. You imagine being in that position, just driving, doing your errands, and you get pulled over like that, guns drawn. Yeah, I mean, how terrifying is that? What a disturbing case, And I will tell you, this is a prime example of one that's important to shed a light on, a story that we need to tell, because unfortunately, this isn't the first time we've seen something like this. And for that, I've got to call out our amazing sponsor, Morgan & Morgan, because it's their support that helps us to bring you these stories, bring you these episodes. And starts telling his colleagues.
Hey, Tom, this is the right car. This is the right car. This is Atlas. This is the wrong
You just said this is an Atlas.
Yeah, this is the wrong car.
We're all good.
This is the wrong car.
What's that?
Yes, it is. The plate don't match.
The last 4 or 5 are wrong.
This is the wrong plate.
Yep. Yikes. Wait, Tyler, thanks so much for coming on. You know, this is not the first time we've seen these kinds of cases, unfortunately, but generally speaking, stop. And officers came out with guns drawn. Here's the problem. The police would soon figure out that they just pulled over the wrong vehicle.
He complied. The world that they're trained guys ready to kill you. He's ready to blow his head off.
Okay? Not the person they were looking for. But by then, House was already in.
Oh, left hand, do it from the inside. You come out with a gun.
So I'm going
Down! Put the window down! Put both of your hands out the window!
So one guy's telling him, get your hands up. And the other guy's saying, put the window down right now.
Now! Put both of your hands out the window!
I got commands. I got
Go ahead.
commands. You, with an outside hand, reach out, open the door. Watch your crossfire. Okay, real slow, left hand, do it from the inside. You come out with a gun, we are going to end you. Do you understand? There you go. There you go. Come on out. I gotta put the time. Put it in park. Put it in park. Real slow. Everything real slow.
I'm gonna shoot you in your head if you come up with anything other than that.
All right, real slow. Slow down. Slow down. Slow down.
I'm going to shoot you in the head. This guy was driving home from Costco in a car that's different color, different brand, and not a different brand, it is Volkswagen, a different model. And the first 2 numbers of the license plate match a desperate killer that's in a shootout somewhere in the area. A desperate killer that's fleeing and was in a shootout somewhere in the area. So these amped up.
Somebody shut off that siren. Left hand, real slow across your body.
What's your algorithm all about? It's the same thing.
In college, but then suddenly and inexplicably, he drops out, just drops out. Then he enrolls again in 1971 in the Courant Institute of Mathematical Sciences at NYU. And he is there in 1971 to study the mathematical aspects of cardiac physiology. That's very specific. But guess what? He doesn't make it to the end because he drops out. He drops out of the Courant Institute again. Is heading up the school. And why is Epstein hired? Well, he's hired to teach mathematics and physics, despite not having a degree in either. Prestigious.
That's the way the world works. Candace has been exposing everything. You know, I hope I hope she's ready to rightly divide the word of Christ once she gets all this straightened out.
Candace at checkout. All right, so who is Trump protecting? You have to wonder. I don't believe, and I know that some of you guys were in the comments, you're really mad at me about this, by the way. I said, I don't believe that Trump is in the Epstein files. You're like, Candace, come on. He's obviously in the Epstein files. And I maintain, I am being genuine with you when I say that I really do not think that Trump is in these files in a way that he's nervous about coming out. I just don't see that.
What's he doing then? Just protecting everybody else, huh? He wasn't hot for his own daughter, but he is only a puppet. He's only a puppet.
Was in the public domain. There was this guy who said that, yeah, Jared Kushner got into Harvard because of this Midas touch. They were saying that he did not have the grades to Barr, who we've discussed. He was then the head of the prestigious Dalton School, publishes this mysterious book, Space Relations. We talked about this. And this book is
He's the guy that hired Epstein.
telling about a sexual blackmail ring, children that are going to be molested, all to serve this demonic
Somebody ordered $68,000 worth of Chicago hot dogs.
space colony known as KOSAR, KOSSAR, guys, not to be confused with KZARs, okay? They're involved in sex trafficking, and for whatever reason, it's this really disgusting book that the head of a school decided to publish in 1974. Not creepy at all, and it foretells the story of Ghislaine and Jeffrey Epstein. Now, what I didn't tell you before is that it should be mentioned that Donald Barr was a member at that time.
He's Jewish. But he wrote that crazy book. I like when she exposed Brigitte Marcon as a woman.
I know you're fine. Just exit the car then.
Now, you have rights. She believes her rights is that she has on call, on retainer, attorney for Chicago, city of Chicago. And if you're one of those people, even if you're drunk driving or accused of drunk driving and you hit another car, you have the right to remain silent. She has a right to call her lawyer illegal.
Yes, you do.
They're giving you a lawful order.
You were involved in an accident. You're gonna have to, or we're gonna assist you.
This man can help you?
Yeah, this is my friend. She texted me.
Okay. Oh, let's walk over
She
here.
okay? Is she okay?
Well, we're in the middle of an investigation, DUI investigation right now.
I'll wait for my attorney.
You need to exit.
I will be fine.
It appears that she may have been drinking, involved in a 3-car accident. Oh, yeah, that's what we're relating at this point now. So we're trying to ask her to step out so we can do a field sobriety test, which we're supposed to do to determine if she is or not.
Yeah.
If she doesn't want to get out.
So she's not exiting. And she'd say she.
Yeah, the letter CBM.
No, but hold on.
You're under arrest.
You're under arrest. One second, man. You're not going anywhere.
All kinds of people, what's the world going on? She didn't get in any trouble.
County Democratic Party leaders.
I do wish that no one in this room has to face the public scrutiny that I have had to face.
So
She didn't do anything wrong. She had a tumor in her brain.
you were not drunk.
I was not. No, absolutely not.
The police officer reported an open bottle of red wine.
And the video footage that I saw shows him opening the bottle of.
She admits she drank the wine in a restaurant and took the bottle home. It was already open, and now he opened it and smelled it. Yeah, this is wine. It was half full. But they're going to win.
Red wine. I had gone to lunch. I had a glass of wine and I wanted to keep the bottle.
So did you open the bottle or did he open the bottle?
And so I brought it with me.
Steele says her peripheral vision was impacted by a medical condition.
I was diagnosed with a pituitary tumor.
Yeah, her pituitary, her pineal gland is probably not working all that well either. This is how they test concrete today. The Swiss hammer. Not much of a history here, is there? This looks, the patent kind of looks old. It is old, but they don't give anything away here, They basically copied an old thing to just toned it down. They used to use this from 1861 to 1951. That's when that guy lived. The first professor of metallurgy. Wow. They didn't need to know anything until this guy became its first professor. What would that be? 1888? RJ's favorite year. One of his favorite years. What is this Roman concrete? How did it get lost? Based on hydraulic setting cement added to the aggregate. Lost. Was in widespread use from the, that's 150 years before Christ. Some scholars believe it was developed a little bit earlier. It caused a revolution. It was a revolution. And we're still looking at them today. What? No way. First century, oldest surviving concrete dome. Huh. The original covering of that has been removed. There you go. Tobermarite. That's going to make your concrete last forever, but we lost the recipe. They lost the recipe. I'm not blaming you. Why did you do it? Show me your ID. What's this? Oh, so here's where all those temples are. I was looking hard, going like, where's the one in Milwaukee? And then I'm there like, oh, Wauwatosa, that's Milwaukee. And it's called the Greek Orthodox Church, Annunciation of the Greek Orthodox Church. What's wrong with this video? Doesn't exist. Okay, we've seen enough videos. Here's that church I used to play long distance frisbee on. Is that Gather Energy? I don't know. Frank Lloyd Wright, you ask him. Big yard though. Big yard. He did it. Madman, crazy person who wouldn't have an ego. So, and then I knew I was just going to share that little bit. And the Lord says, you should look up Omnicom buys PepsiCo. I got no reason to not do it. I had time. So I looked it up. Is this one of those things where, because I'm familiar, when Omnicom buys PepsiCo, it changed my life. It put me into private consulting, employment agencies. And I remember when that happened. And so I looked it up. So it was in the Wall Street Journal talking about in 2001, it was planning. It didn't happen until 10 years later or 15. 10 years later, I think. And we were given years warning that, look, they're going to take your jobs away. We have 5 companies. We have Pepsi, Gatorade, Quaker Oats has just been bought by Omnicom. They have 5 companies to do what you do, Mr. Jack Gohausen. And Jack said, nobody can do what we do. He meant it. He was that kind of guy. Very, very confident. So we didn't, we struggled, they cut us loose after 5 years and we hooked up a few more companies. The Ponytail Posse, the fan club for the United States women's soccer team, the Brandy Chastain and those girls, they were weird. But anyway, we didn't last long after them, so they got shut down. Eventually, believe it or not, Omnicom was bought by InBev. InBev makes Budweiser, Beck's, Corona, and Stella Artois. That's quite a selection there, isn't it? Mexico, Germany, Belgium, United States. They own it all, man. And they own the largest theme park operations. It's part of Blackstone, one of their earliest things, wow. Do they not own anything in Mexico? It really is that, we're down to the 4 or 5 corporations, the 4 or 5 families of the mafias that run the world. They run the world, and I was there. I saw it. I worked for these guys and changed jobs, and the Lord had me ready to hit the road because Omnicom bought PepsiCo and Omnicom, man. I wonder if I kept looking, if I would run into that they were part of the group with Vice President, who's the guy that everybody hates? Cheney, Dick Cheney, and that one cartel group that they were a part of that did the free scale so they could spy on the phones and stuff. These guys did it. So anyway, I looked up this word. This is our Bible verse of the day. It says here, part of it is the present age. What they believe and want to tell you is the present age. They say in Romans 6:6 still applies the verb to personal sanctification. There, they want you to believe. We want you to believe they were writing and knew the end was coming. Our old self was crucified with him so that the body of sin might be rendered powerless, so that we should no longer be slaves with sin. The word we're looking at, destroy in the King James, destroyed in the New King James, but vanish away, shall be done away. I put away childish things. Did you do it all at one time? Did you put away the childish things all at one time? God shall destroy, will be delivered, will annul. The lawless one will be revealed in this episode. The beast, I don't think it's Nero. I think that it's taken me so long to commit because it's been Herod all along. Who else was devoured by worms as he sat declaring himself, accepting praise as a God in the scripture that's pointed at and said, here's a man that was killed because he claimed, he sat in a holy place and claimed to be God. 2 Thessalonians 2, verse 8, from the Berean. And then the lawless one will be revealed, whom the Lord Jesus will slay with the breath of his mouth and annihilate by the majesty of his arrival. We all know when that happened. We all know that the Gospels are, the scriptures are clear who gave a great speech and they accepted praise as if it was from God. A God soaked it in. And the worms ate him up. And they go, well, he didn't die right that instant. We know that from the other ones. Look, it's a process. It was a painful death. And I believe that it's teaching that he was that guy. Now, I'll be digging into it later. But it still comes down to this. It's Roe v. Wade, their abortion debate. They have the entire world now, abortions are mostly legal. They're killing it, and that is fueling their spiritual side of the battle. They are going to, in their mind, have no doubt of victory, and they'll be cleaning up, trying to annihilate the last of the people who, whatever the situation is, won't produce their ID, won't get a jab or something like that. And their duty is to kill you, and some will be rescued by another fire coming down from heaven type situation. And then it is the great white throne of judgment. I'll be fleshing out more of the Herod, King Herod, as the beast. Hope that you're going to be there. Want to remind you it's a flat earth nation. The golden age is past because the mud flood was obviously Armageddon. After they added 1,000 years, they faked things enough. Two angels reaped at the end of the 1,000 years. And now our orphan trained brains are scrambling to go, is this a new creation? What's going on? We're in the short season. We're at the last parts of it, but there's still little over 20 years to go. So it's time for the narrow road to realize we're not going to be a part of them. Oh my goodness, did I see Off-Grid John just put something in there? This is so good. Off-Grid John, I have been holding on to a couple $100 I was going to send your wife. What is the way? Just give me an email address and I know PayPal is owned by Peter Thiel. What's not owned by them right now? This is something that have got to get off of my mind. So this is proof of life to me. Flat Earth Nation, me and my friends are never going to tell you anything else because we have your best interest at heart. Amen. Hallelujah. Aho. Aloha. Arriva. Berti. Ciao. Sayonara. Auf Wiedersehen. Nakamain. It all just means adios. Goodbye.